It's time to get the inside info on BYU with Cougar insider Mitch Harper of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Filling in for JJ is Stevenson Sylvester Sly in the house. Of course, we're going to miss him tomorrow on Football Fridays, though. Normally joining us for the Game Night Live broadcast and then also our breakdowns before the college football weekend. So we'll get your scores. I'll just make sure we get your scores later in the show. I'm not going to let you get away with
Hey, but I am allowed to
guesses.
do more research tonight and change tomorrow. I could text it in.
Sure. Sure.
All right, bet. Let's go.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. Well, last week Riley Nelson changed it after he had already given his score. He goes, "No, hold on. I liked what your score was. I'm gonna go. Hold on. I'm gonna change it." He changed it like mid-show. So, I mean, I guess we can do it. We can do it that way too. Yeah, as long as you get in before everybody else does it. But I'm gonna get those scores from you before we get out of here. Speaking of scores that matter and some that don't, Mitch Harper, BYU insider, KSLSports.com. What's going on, Mitch?
Not much, guys. Happy to be on.
The simulation for EA for College Football 25. That was not the result. Did you redo it maybe a couple times? Maybe get a little bit of a better result? I know you put it up on the website. I watched some of the fake highlights. And even watching the fake highlights, it doesn't look good for the Cougs against Kansas State.
It did not look good at all. I did run a second sim, and it was pretty much the same deal. You know, Kansas State just handling BYU. So hopefully for BYU's sake, they can make this a better game than the video game world thinks they'll stack up against K-State on Saturday night.
What's the reality of what kind of a team is coming into Provo and Lavelle Edwards Stadium on Saturday? Like Kansas State, I think about like BYU was off to a 3-0 start last year. They go to Kansas. That was their first conference game ever as a team. But they go to Lawrence, which is not, people don't look and go, oh, what an insane environment. But in that Kansas team, I don't think is anywhere near maybe the talent that even this Kansas State team is. What type of a team is Kalani getting in Provo this week with Kansas State?
You know, Kansas State's got a good defense, 3-3-5 scheme, a lot of Big 12 teams. You know, we think about those carryover 8 programs from the original Big 12. That's kind of a theme with a lot of those teams. And, Kansas State's had some moments where they've given up yards. Tulane, got had some success against Kansas State's front, but Kansas State though is pretty physical up front. They're not as deep as they've been in years past, but it is a pretty good secondary, and they've had some players kind of emerge that are really trending up. Their linebacker number 41, Tremaine, probably been the most improved player on their defense. He's one of the standout guys to watch for them, and I think offensively. They're still looking to evolve, I think, in the passing game with Avery Johnson, but, they've got such a good ground attack. It's one of the best rushing attacks, maybe the best in the Big 12 when you consider Giddens, Edwards, and then you add on top of Avery Johnson. It's an elite ground attack, and that's going to be the challenge for BYU. If they can stop the run, or at least contain it and prevent the big plays, which BYU's been known to do the last couple of years, they don't give up the big ones. They can be in position going into the fourth quarter to, have a chance to pull this upset and if they can make Avery Johnson a one-dimensional quarterback.
Yeah, what have you seen from Avery? I mean, the Tulane game, of course, he didn't pass well, but this past week he seemed more and more confident. Is that something that BYU fans should definitely be worried about? Is there maybe road games for him that aren't great? What is when Avery Johnson comes into Lavelle Edwards Stadium, what should BYU fans anticipate?
He's going to probably be the best running quarterback that they've seen since Taysom Hill, and he is a legit top-tier athlete, and his speed is legit, and I think that's what makes him so exciting. If he was, at an SEC program or a Big Ten program, he'd already be getting probably Heisman buzz from national media, but being in the Big 12, it seems like he kind of gets overlooked. But elite athlete and one of the highest-rated recruits Kansas State's ever signed. But there have been moments, that Tulane game in particular, where passing the football, it doesn't feel like he's evolved much. Even in that Pop-Tarts Bowl win they had last year, he was about 41% completion rate, very inaccurate, but he's just such a star running the football. I mean, he had a road game last year at Texas Tech that was his breakout where he had 5 rushing touchdowns. And I mean, for anyone to get 5 rushing touchdowns in a game, but is amazing. But a quarterback, that's unheard of. So he can do special things, and so I'm very curious to see how BYU's defensive front, which has been much improved this year,
right,
how they perform against Kansas State. So Avery Johnson, I think, definitely the toughest test at the quarterback position they faced to date. Jennings at SMU he posed his challenges, but he was not a good passer, and I'm kind of surprised that SMU is going to roll with him as the starter. But Avery Johnson's best test they faced to this point.
So we chatted with their sideline reporter yesterday, Matt Walters, and he talked about how, the quarterback at Kansas State has never really been a real sexy spot. You think about, who's the guy, Klein, who they used to have years ago, who was their quarterback.
Klein, Michael Bishop,
all
those guys.
Yeah, and you know what? It wasn't like you just think about Kansas State being a really physical team, and that's kind of always been their identity. And, I think people see guys like Deuce Vaughn and how flashy he could be out of the backfield, but all that's still running the football. And so I would imagine that they're still going to try to impose their will. They try to run the football. That's the whole thing. And I think that what he brought up was if you allow Kansas State to have 180 plus yards of rushing, just statistically, it's not going to be a good day for the opposing team. How are they going to attack this ground game? And is this going to be like the first real test for this new Jay Hill defense, I guess, that we've seen this year?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the first real test. And I think you got to give them credit for the fact that, coming into the season, BYU was viewed as a lower-tier team, and they took care of business against fellow lower-tier teams, if you will, because I don't think SMU's that great. I think they've kind of got overhyped, but definitely the toughest test. And, I'm really curious to see how BYU's defensive line performs. I think the keys for this defense that they kind of get overlooked a little bit, but there's some NFL buzz for Blake Mingleson, defensive tackle. There were scouts from the NFL, the Saints, a handful of other teams that have rolled through, the Jets last week. They're talking to Sione Buha, and they're talking to Justin Ennett with Jack Kelly as well. BYU's defensive players are getting some buzz because of the way that they're playing, and there's a lot more speed on BYU's defense than I think we maybe gave them credit for coming into the season, and it's just translating to the field because it seems like they just have such a strong knowledge of this defensive scheme now, and so it's allowing them to play faster than they looked a season ago in year one under Jay Hill. So those defensive tackles are going to be critical, being assignment sound, but also generating some pressure in the backfield. I mean, Blake Mingleson, he's got 11 quarterback hurries this season from the D tackle spot. He's been a real force for BYU, and you pair it up with Tyler Batty, who's I think played very well, getting into preseason accolades that he's received. So that group has got to shine. And I called it coming into the season. I thought BYU could pull this upset because I like the spot of BYU being at home. They're traditionally always a team that pulls off one big upset, and maybe it was SMU. Maybe they exhausted that good fortune already, but I still don't look at SMU as that great of a team. And I think this is the spot where BYU, they're always good for one big one. And, they haven't won a nationally ranked game since 2022. And that, oddly enough, was a late night September game against Baylor. And that was a real breakthrough moment for Kalani and his program then. BYU, if they can contain that ground attack and not let them get to that 180 and up, as the sideline reporter noted, they're going to be in this ball game, and they're going to have a chance to be competitive.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. I mean, how do they do it? BYU has not been running the ball very effectively. Retzlaff's been on and off. He has the capabilities that you've seen at the end of last season. He can do it. He's had some shines or some spots where you can say, like, okay, there's something there. Of course, BYU's still not all 100% in on Retzlaff yet, but, like, what do they need to do? Like, defensively, offensively, how do you contain Avery Johnson? What sort of things? Like, I'm very familiar with this defense that Jay Hill runs. I mean, I have my ideas, but from your perspective, what do you see BYU needs to do to, one, contain Avery Johnson on the offensive side of the ball, and then, of course, play complementary football and be effective on offense?
Well, I think with the offense, they've got to, take care of the ball, and I think they got to get to the ball in the playmakers' hands with Chase Roberts early and often, because that ground attack, LJ Martin, I didn't see him at practice yesterday. He might have been there. We don't get to watch practice, but I didn't see him. Hinckley Ropati was suited up, and he's working his way back from the knee injury. I'm more hopeful for Hinckley than I am LJ right now if I had to, forecast kind of the outlook. But you're going to see Enoch Nawahine back. I really like Pokai Honga. I think he's going to be a really good player for BYU, but it's running back by committee. You got to be able to get the ball to playmakers at wide receiver, and Chase Roberts in particular, Darius Lassiter. I talked with him this week and asked him if there was much ado about that alleged beef between him and Retzlaff, and he said no. They just had a venting session where they were maybe a little upset about how a certain pass was executed against Wyoming, but he has full belief. Happens. He said with Jake Retzlaff, and so I think that the passing game, quick, precise, short passes, get the ball in the playmakers' hands. And I think defensively, I want to see, because last week it was very vanilla defensive looks. There was nothing that creative from Jay Hill. I want to see a lot of aggressive plays, and I want to see some blitzes too. I think there was not many against Wyoming. And, Sabota for Wyoming, he got the ball out quick and he took off and run. So it only led to one sack, but I expect more pressure from BYU. I think they are going to come in loose. They really have nothing to lose in this game. I mean, if you do go down, people are going to say you expected that. As long as you're competitive, I think this will be one of those games that people will look as another sign that the program has turned. And so I expect a lot of pressure from Jay Hill. I think he's it's going to be in a very aggressive play calling from him. I fully expect that. And I like, too, what I've seen from BYU secondary, because the back end of the defense with Jacob Robinson, Mark Collins, you're expected to get Maury Bamba back. The personnel is there to where you can leave those guys on islands, and I just think that allows for the pressure up front to get more aggressive, because you feel like you've got some lockdown corners on the edges, and in the back end with the safeties who they feel they go about 6 deep. I mean, there was 5 or 6 guys played at the safety position last week, and that was without Micah Harper, who they're expecting to get back this week. So there's a lot of good things for BYU, and a lot of it, we'll zero in on Jake Retzlaff, and I know fans are kind of mixed feelings about him, but if he can just avoid the catastrophic mistake, he'll be in a spot to have success. I really believe that he's made some progress this year, and I'm curious to see if he can avoid those disastrous mistakes. And if he does have the mistakes, then how quick or willingness maybe is there from Roderick or Kalani to make a change potentially if it'll stack up like they did against SMU. So it's a fascinating game. I mean, it's going to be a really good matchup, and I think these are the type of games that the Big 12 is kind of priding itself on, of just having anything could happen, and it's going to be an electric atmosphere, and there's going to be vanilla Cougar Tales. There's going to be late night TV. It's Big 12 After Dark. That's what you want.
It's going to be a late one. I was going to ask you about the last year when they went full chocolate on the Cougar Tail. This is the only, by the way, you're not having concessions discussions
Can
about.
Can people in Provo be out that late?
Oh yeah. No, that's when they get permission.
Oh,
that's when they get a signed thing. They're able to. It's like a hall pass. They'll all be carrying it around. Mitch, am I going to see you up in the booth with a stack of those special Cougar Tails you're going to take home with you again? I know your boys appreciate it. I don't know if they're going to be at the late game, but last time we had the chocolate ones, you were there early in the booth getting some to take home with you.
Yeah, I've discussed kind of the content around the vanilla Cougar Tail. Maybe I'll do a popular mukbang, as they call on TikTok, where I'll talk to the camera and discuss while I'm eating the vanilla Cougar Tail. I don't know. I should fully warn Kyle Collinsworth in advance. Hey, don't watch these videos because you probably will get offended.
He's like, you got to eat better than that, Mitch. You got to treat your body right, dog.
Casey, I know I need to, watch the sugar intake. I get it, but it's fall, it's late, and I'm gonna go to this vice of this vanilla Cougar Tail because my gosh, I got to.
Yeah, you got to. Hey, I would just do something special in the booth. Grab some of those Tucanos turkey wrapped bacon or bacon wrapped turkey. Put it on and fold it into the Cougar Tail. Get yourself something sweet and savory all at the same time. All right. Mitch, we always got to sneak in some concessions talk on top of it, and some fake football with the EA 25 game. Thanks for joining us, man. We'll see you on Saturday night, and we'll, of course, be able to have our jam session on 1st and 12 as well. Cannot wait for a long weekend, brother.
You bet, guys. Take care.
There you go. Mitch Harper, everybody. Mitch and I hang out till this Saturday's probably going to be up, it's like 4:30, 5 in the morning, doing our Big 12 show. Jeez. It's a late one.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it, though. That's what I'm going to ask him to do. Bring the cougar tail so that we can nail that thing down and just keep the energy up.
I really want to hear your food blog.
Your food blog. I would do a good
your
job.
Your breakdown of food, like the flavor. It needs a little bit more vanilla. The nutmeg's all right. But,
I am questioning. They're going half vanilla, half maple on this cougar tail. And I think it's because they don't trust the vanilla flavor, which is not a good start.
Testing it out.
Yeah, it's not a good start.
At least leave the other half to what you know.
I know.
So that's actually respectable.
I know. They did the full chocolate last year. I think they only went half vanilla here because they know that's not going to sell well. All right. But that's just what I'm saying. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. By the way, next hour, we're going to be rolling out our weekly winner of the Hercules Hero of the Week. And if you haven't done it already, you can nominate a Hercules Hero of the Week for yourself. Somebody who has done an awesome job in the youth sports in your neighborhood and in your community. You nominate that person, KSLSports.com/contest, KSLSports.com/contest. Nominate that person, and every week we help celebrate those winners by giving them a prize from Hercules Credit Union and from Beehive Meals, who bring you the Hercules Hero of the Week every week. So we'll roll that out next hour. We've got a winner again and another good one. So stay right here with us. More to go right around the corner. A Would You Rather next. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.